Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, September 10th, 2022. I don't know what that all adds up to, but it sounds pretty interesting to me. My name is Barbara With, and you are here with me and the Party of 12, this delicious group of souls who are working with us from Afterlife for World Peace, headed up by Albert Einstein. And today we've brought forward this topic of intention, visualization, and manifestation. There's been a lot said through the years about manifestation, and the party and Einstein have always had a different slant on it than anyone I have heard before. So I'm very excited to hear what they have to say, and of course, the conversation with the psychic sorority. And you are always welcome to join us on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. I have a Zoom link on my website, partyof12.com, that will take you right there on Saturday mornings. So welcome to the party. I was inspired by conversations I had with my friend Shelley, who came up in readings last fall when we were doing this new configuration. Einstein was instructing us to create this board and start this nonprofit and create this central hub. And this podcast has been part of that vision. And somehow Shelley's name came up last November, and she's a dear friend of several of the psychic sorority members, but she's never participated with us in any way. And the other day, because of the circumstances, I've been working with her at an event center, and she's wanted to do these spiritual retreats, and I have content, and we started to talk about let's get our ducks in a row and do our process. And then, so that's what's inspired my wanting to talk about intention, visualization, and manifestation. So, of course, I
had to look it up.
Had to look it up in this dictionary.
Yes, special dictionary.
At this special cosmic dictionary. Okay. Intention. That which is intended, aim, purpose. The state of mind operative at a time of an action. Having the mind fastened upon some purpose. That was intent. Intention is the plan of action, an aim that guides action. So first comes the intention. Out of the nothing is this aim, this purpose. Then comes the visualization, that which is or has been seen. So the aim leads to being able to see a mental image produced by the imagination. So out of the aim comes the mental images that are going to be the manifestation. Manifest. Clearly apparent to the sight or understanding. Clearly apparent to the sight would mean that it's, to me, it's in the lens, and you can see it now. Manifestation in the lens. To show or demonstrate plainly, to reveal, to prove. This is, interesting and probably nothing new to us who have been practicing this in some way or another in our lives for a long time. But today I want to really get into practical and personal intentions so that we can have some time to together sort of clearly articulate, if you can right now, what that flow, like Shelley and I were doing, what that flow of intention into vision, into manifestation, to articulate it. And part of me thinks really the best way to do it is not to visualize, to say, use this energy for the greatest good. That's what I want. I want the greatest good to happen. But also there's something I think about us propagandized consumerists that like to create things. And the reason I said that was because I just read this article I'd written several years ago about propaganda. And it's quite a lengthy article, but every time I read it, I find something, new about that I forgot about, how this whole voices of culture have been created around us to make us into consumers, to buy the products that the corporations were making at the turn of the century, back there during the war. And how to detach from that whole culture without actually leaving it and going up on a hill and sitting where there's no malls, whatever, to detach from that culture while we're in it. And like Joanne was saying, something about walking through the forest, the tree farm, to get closer to the nature and get closer to the really, really true essence of why we're here and who we are. And it's not to make a buck. On the other hand, if there is no judgment on anything to manifest, then why not? Why not visualize manifesting for the greatest good? And on top of that, if I had a say in how it happened, this and this, whatever somebody's heart's desire might be. I'm really interested in what the party has to say, but what do you guys think?
The word that came to me this week was that we've been commoditized, that we are a commodity, and that we have, and that is the fiat currency piece, is that it's, and I don't even know if commoditized is a word.
I'll look it up.
It just came to me that, and the whole human world is caught up in the fact that there has to be a monetary exchange, and then the value of that. I've been thinking a lot lately also about the Puritan ethic in here in the, I don't know if that's in other places, but here in the States, when the Puritans came over, and they're not alone in this, but that your value, your godliness, was connected to your prosperity. And so if God shined upon you, you were prosperous. But that has moved into the culture in a very interesting way in my mind. It's moved into the culture in that people who amass money, even the best meaning, even the great luminaries and everybody, reaches a place where they are promoting and living within this ideal of deserving, that I deserve, therefore. And I'm just going to use this as a way to look at it. I mean, I've gone to workshops that have had a sliding scale. There's one particular Om site that is beautiful that way. You can choose what you want to pay, to different presenters and so on that I'd like to see that are doing $5,000. Depending on where people are on the planet, I see all the people that cannot participate in that. And then over the years, I've occasionally reached out for scholarship, and I have been put through the hoops a couple of times with, well, if you're going to get a scholarship, partial or full, then you have to promise that you're going to do the next 5 things. You're going to, give us a evaluation. You're going to attend every, and and I sit there with all of this demeaning behavior around the fact that if one can't afford something, and now I'm going global, this is the commoditized piece that has, even in our inspirational communities, has impacted us.
Let me interrupt to give the definition of commodity.
Mhm.
Anything useful or that can be turned into a commercial advantage.
Yeah. One of the most beautiful exchanges of services, we'll call them, and money, years ago when I became a single parent through a divorce, and I had a young son, I sought some therapy for him. At that point, I was on a string as budget wise, and the therapist had 10 slots that he kept open for people who could or could not afford his services. And he rotated through them. And to this day, when I think about how Tom did that, it was a welcoming piece that he served the world and he allowed for, because I'm feeling that a lot of what goes on in our world, so commoditized, people who are really interested turn away because they can't do a $5,000 workshop.
It's pertinent to the inspiration for why I wanted to do this was
Oh,
because we're planning those kinds of retreats. And on one hand, you have the owner's girlfriend had just come back from, maybe it was a week with Dr. Joe
oh yeah.
Dispenza, and she paid thousands of dollars. As I listen to what you're saying, I think that there's room to create all kinds of different things so that people don't have to necessarily be deprived of the information. At least I'm thinking personally of what my content is. I think part of the realization I had after reading my propaganda article was how deeply embedded in us this, and I think it's called meritocracy,
Oh, meritocracy.
the idea that you merit being, those people who aren't abundant, they don't merit it. I merit it. I'm at the top of the food chain. Working more linearly, more horizontally, in a more feminine, defined feminine. Heck,
Isn't it what we were talking about this divine feminine and divine masculine? And what you were talking about, Barbara, it's more the way into the divine feminine, like unity consciousness, like sharing all our resources without taking and grabbing and being greedy. This masculine energy we have right now on the planet, it's all about greed and it's all about division. And they use the money to divide us too. They use COVID to divide us, and the politics and the religions and the skin color and the hair color and whatever, and the money. And we can only jump out of this when we share our resources, like you did with your, what did you call it, your institution where you shared things?
the exchange.
Exchange, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you cannot do that when you're greedy, and it's all about greed. We take from the earth, we take from everybody, and that's why we have to rob our neighbors of money and charge for everything we want to give. It's a bad version of us represented right now, and we are moving away from it to more unity consciousness and more sharing mentality.
And maybe that's happening because it's being revealed.
Of
I mean,
course.
not maybe, sorry. I think that is, yeah.
Of course. We are getting divided because of many different things. Is it visible for everybody? So all the division we are shown now through everything, through media and everything which is shown us right now, we see only division. That wakes us up, and then we know we don't want that anymore, and it's actually a good thing. So that's moving us away in a different direction, I think.
Well, and on a microcosm,
Yeah.
I had a friend over a few days ago who she is actively reading the Einstein book, but she's still in a mindset that Trump was Hitler. My challenge was if I'm going to have a unity mindset, then I have to find a way with this woman that I love, she's my friend, to bring unity. And because it got not heated, like we were going to get mad at each other, but I have to be the one. I have to be the one to find a way to make unity. And I actually just stopped and said, you know what? I don't want to have this conversation. I didn't invite you to come stay overnight so we could fight about Donald Trump. And she shifted and I shifted. And by the next morning, I was like, thank you so much for coming and having these conversations to help me grow. And in my sense, I was feeling like growing in being a peacemaker, because I was very glad she came by the end. And she took my book, and she also took some of the articles I've written about propaganda and is going to read. And
that's part of your work too. So we all are Donald Trump, and we all are Hitler, and we all are Barbarovich, and we all are all.
yeah, thus the unity principle, you know.
I love the word commoditize. I love new words. That's a great one. And I see that we are, and like you said, out of fear. It's like whether we make our intentions out of fear or out of the heart. That's a big awareness to have.
Yeah, I want to also mention, with it being the feminine, and there are different names to it. And one, Sophia Century is one, and there's a lot of positivity in women. I mean, actually, the Dalai Lama 12 years ago said Western women will save us. I've got it somewhere, bookmarked, the quote. And I went to find the quote. I heard it first and then wanted to find it. But that doesn't mean we just open ourselves to trusting that every woman is in that frame. And we have a governor that absolutely is a patriarchal woman. And it's been along the way, the lessons for me have been that, yes, we're moving into the feminine, but at no point is it useful to just give license to anybody to be in a position or to do this or that because they're a woman. We still have to bring forth our feminine qualities and be seen as being able to seek the higher road. And that because of the patriarchal times we've been in, there are many women who've taken on the armor of patriarchy. And the name of the workshop that I talked about is the Sophia Century. It was a lot about money. And so, but we also were caught because it's this duality. We need money for the mortgage and for other things. And then services come into a different realm, and it's how do we, for the highest good. So
Don't you think that if we get to a point of manifestation, that we can embody the old phrase they used to tell us, it takes the same amount of process to manifest a green pencil as it does a red Ferrari. It's just that the red Ferrari has more complex intellectualizing that goes along with it. Am I one of those meritocratic people who deserve a red Ferrari? Have I worked hard enough? A green pencil is whatever. So when we get to that point and everything is just manifestation, then it doesn't matter. You can manifest money, and money isn't evil in and of itself.
right.
I in my vision, I have a whole bunch of it because there's a lot of stuff that I want to change in the world that money can help.
Right.
It's not the only thing.
The other piece is the reality is money also engenders judgment about ourselves, about how we use it, about how we're seen to use it. And so, yes, there's a need for a total conscious change in what that representation is. And there's a great quote, and I think it's by St. Thomas Aquinas. Nothing is intrinsically good or evil, but the manner of usage may make it so. I really, really love that. That just kind of pulls it all together for me, that it's the manner in which we use whatever. So, yeah.
And also that commercializing life
Yeah.
also cuts us off from nature. It's been a way to cut us off from nature.
From life force. Yep.
So
Yeah. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I love you all. It's been a life of, not being able to express these things and to process them. Sometimes I have to hear what's been pent up inside of me to take a look at it and either approve of it or say, oh, that didn't rest so well when you actually said it. So there's that learning edge with language too. Thank you.
anybody else want to share before we get into the channel?
When I was in university, I had the desiderata on my wall. Do you remember that big long dissertation? But the line that always spoke to me, or that I always went back to, was, whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. That always gave me a lot of comfort, I guess. Like, obviously it wasn't clear to me lots of times, when I was going through turmoil and so on, but in the end, yes.
And kind of fits in with that idea of just which is more powerful or which is better, to just intend and visualize dedicating your life to the greatest good, and then watching and being amazed as you listen to your intuition and use intellect, the divine masculine being the intellect in the state of listening to intuition and then doing its bidding, or having those pieces come up from your imagination, seeing those retreats, seeing those fill in the blanks. Anyway, Linda, you were.
I, for a very long time, have said I am one with the source. But when I chose to start saying that, and actually, I never signed my name on a check, that is not what's behind my name. I use OWTS. People actually address me by OWTS, Linda Rodenbaugh, because they don't know what that means. But when they do that, they even make me more in tune with the source. What I had to learn, I don't need to know what that source is. I don't have to put a definition to it, like a god or a goddess or a being. It is that source, and I am one with that source. So those are the things that I say to myself, and I will tell you that, and when I am doing my gratitude for abundance, I use abundance in the broad sense of abundance, not necessarily money abundance, abundance in friends, abundance in knowledge, abundance in wisdom. Abundance comes in many, many forms. So a lot of my searching and all of this in the last number of years, quite a few years, I have really found that if I stay in tune to that, in tune to that source that I am one with, things do have a way of working. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't bumps in the road, because without bumps in the road, we don't know what all the smooth road is.
And Debbie had sent me this David Icke interview, who a man who becomes more pertinent, by the minute. But he was going through this. He was very close to describing what we see in our maps, but he had this whole thing about, but why would you come back here and forget? And why would there be this reincarnation where you have to suffer? And I thought, oh, David, you need to read this book. Because it's all about the awakening. And they said this a couple weeks back about when you get into afterlife, you have all these regrets, but it's not what you think. You regret that you couldn't have realized how amazing you were sooner, those kinds of things. So, well, let us get into our channel. So let's begin by each of us sitting in our place, and let's keep our eyes open and really notice, really take the time to look at the room that's around you. In my case, I'm looking at my kitchen and the lights on my ceiling, my carpeting, the forest outside, my curtains, etc. And begin to breathe with your eyes open. And as you breathe in, notice something else. In detail, look at the objects in the lens. And here we will surround you with the healing white light, the pure Christ light that is originating in your source. It is your own Christ consciousness. And as you're sitting where you're sitting with your eyes open, looking at the table and the lamp and the floors, feel in your solar plexus this source energy rising from the center of the earth and speedily making its way into your lens. And it's manifesting your body right now. And those carpets and those lamps and those curtains. It's part of an incredible dance of great cooperation that is centered in you and you and you. And we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon this scenario at this time. And that here you will feel and create only the greatest good. This morning, we wanted to take you on this perceptual journey, as we are prone to do, to get to the root of things. In talking about all of these concepts about manifestation, we want to show you the innate birthright that you have to manifesting universes. And that proof is right where you're sitting. Because to begin with the intention, the aim, the goal, the purpose, you yourselves have a human intention. We have taught you about the human intention for decades. In a scientific perspective, if you're talking about the maps of our unified fields and of human consciousness, the human intention is a triangular configuration that makes up the relationship between intellect, emotion, and intuition. It's the triangular configuration of those three human dimensions that create the ability for you to be human. Within you, of course, emanating out of the source is everything else, the trees and the chair and the curtains and the carpet. But it is this human intention that is the aim of having those dimensions to create a human in the lens. At your root, you are intending every minute that you're having a human experience. And all of you though you come from the same source, your own individual mathematics, the subset of the whole and the whole, gives you a visualization for the manifestation of your life. Your life is Hecate, your life as Lynne, your life is Teresa, your life is Barbara. It gives you that process right there. So in essence, you're already in the act of intending, visualizing, and manifesting. You're intending to be human, then there's the visualization of it, coming out of the imagination, the form. Intention comes from emotion and intuition. Intention is the impelling. Visualization is an intellectual function that starts to create form out of the fuel of emotion and the commands of intuition. From there, headed into the intellect, form takes shape. And then there's this very special function that humans have, and that is free will. If a polar bear is chasing a gazelle, it probably wouldn't be in the same continent, but bear with us. The gazelle does not have free will to stop and sit down. Instinct is what drives the decision making in the gazelle. Humans were given this extra thing that allows the intellect in its imagination while it's visualizing to shut out the voice of intuition, which carries the profound power of the fuel of emotion. This conflict that can arise because of this functioning of the system is being revealed and is revealed to you so that you can change that you can use that free will to let go. You can use that free will to listen to the intuition. You can use that free will to make a commitment to witness yourself. And so the manifestation is the lens of all this mechanism. So talking about subsets, we want to encourage you to do that with your own life and the details of your own life. Because while you are a huge spiritual being with this operating system based on the unity principle, you also have individual lives for purpose. And part of your purpose for coming and having this human intention to be human is to use that power, is to use it, learning to use it, being willing to use it, and maybe not everything turns out all hunky-dory. And then using your free will and using your life again to turn whatever it is that comes at you into the manifestation of the greatest good. And it's in this way that you birth a new humanity. It's in this way that that's the metaphor we like to use of the fish throwing themselves up onto the land and adapting to a new environment. We love giving homework, and we want you to each individually pick a manifestation, whether it's a green pencil or a red Ferrari, but pick something that's important to you, maybe not as judgment triggering as a red Ferrari might be. Also, do some added visioning and intending and manifesting where you don't put anything in there. So maybe however you're going to personally do this, some of you may wish to set aside a little bit of meditation time to do this for yourself every day, maybe before you get up, or after you get in bed, or maybe while you're getting a massage. However you're going to focus on the homework, which is to set the intention, the aim, the purpose, and then visualize, fill in the blank, and then pay attention for the manifestation. Spend some time being wide open. That's always very, very helpful to detach from the voices of culture telling you you're a commodity. To just get in that I am space. I am. You can add a word. I am abundant. I am healthy. I am thriving. Or you can just be the I am. And it's just the knowing that you're not a commodity. And in fact, you're going to turn the tables and dismantle a commodity and create a new system that flows for the highest good, not just for the advantage of the one who has control of the commodity. And the more that you spend time in a day doing this, the more you're not only getting into a habit that's going to be beneficial for you in any situation of letting go and trusting the highest good, and then paying attention to the manifestation. And trust us, that's a very important part of this. We spent years with Barbara training her to not overlook the manifestation, because the intellect will do that, especially if you have abscesses of traumatized patterns and subatomic voices that you can't hear, that are critical or judgmental or limiting. So as you go through this and you hear those, push up against them. Visualize something that might go outside your comfort zone, and then listen as the fear or the anxiety or the trepidation rises up, and then use that free will to adjust. Those adjustments sometimes are breath, just breath work of feeling and breathing and harvesting that hard to get to anxiety sometimes, and funneling that into a visualization. And the more that you release that expectation, ironically enough, the more when you go to what you want to manifest, you can visualize a specific manifestation with the caveat that you want it done for the good of the whole. You want to see this physical manifestation in your lens. This is your birthright. This is why you're here. It's to experiment with the manifestation of creation. You're already master manifestors already. Look around you. Look at what you're manifesting as we're speaking. Oh no, I'm just a passenger here in the, no, you're not just a conductor of the train. You are the train. You're the station. You're the tracks. You're the whole deal, and you're the real deal. Don't be afraid to dream big. Sometimes big dreams are great catalysts to uncover some of those sabotaging voices. But in the end, go back to releasing everything. The most important priority that you have in all of that is to live for the good of the whole, starting with yourself. And that starting with yourself part is what pretty much guarantees that manifestation will take a bigger form around you. So with all of that said, how can we help with questions and conversation?
Well, I had a question and you answered it beautifully. It was along the lines of what Linda was expressing, how she considers herself, I am one with the source. And I just believe that's a beautiful place to come from always. And so my question was, is this part of the intention that we should have is coming from that I amness? And you said yes. So I'm another thing that came to me is this higher vibration. People say your vibration has to match. So visualizing a specific manifestation for the good of all, that puts you in a higher vibration versus coming from your ego or commoditization. Is that a good way of thinking of that?
Yes. And the condition that then you create from that higher vibration is the key to the power. You see that those who come for the good of the few at the expense of the many, they have a temporary power, but it's dependent upon the people who are going to recognize them and be afraid of them and fight them and grant that they are those powerful people that are destroying the world. That is a true perspective. But when you move into the higher realm where they don't have the power, the real power is in the I am. And when you start a day affirming, recognizing, revealing, proving to yourself every day that the I am is where the real power lies, will help detach you from the voices of culture, will help you be able to look at those greedy people as also fellow unity beings that really I am creating. And so I can uncreate and I can recreate through recreating myself, starting within. That's the power. And you all know that because whenever you do this, and you've all done it, you do it continually. Where when you let go, you don't do it every minute of the day. You still worry and fret and doubt and let voices of culture make you anxious, and you play out scenes that you wish you hadn't acted that way. All of that goes on. But when you take this bigger commitment to the good of the whole, you get to tap into the whole in a way that those people don't. Those greedy people aren't tapping into the whole. Therefore, it's destructive. But when you tap into the good of the whole and you're willing to, first of all, self-love to that degree and then pump that self-love into the whole, you get the rewards back. And we want to just say this too about the money conversation, is that when you give to the good of the whole, you are going to get back from the whole. And first and foremost, what we want you to get back is the self-realization that you are this amazing creature in the most, and get that back in the most abundant ways for yourself, so that it's not dependent upon what you're doing for a living or where you're living or this or that, that every day is this huge miraculous effort on the part of source coming through you, that you own that power. You own it. That's a scary thing for humans. They don't know what to do with that kind of power. But when you're working for the good of the whole, you don't have to worry about it, because you're going to be guided to taking the next most advantageous step. And when you faithfully follow that, the divine masculine that's its purpose. That's his purpose, is to listen and honor the divine feminine and the guidance, and then go out and make that happen for her. That's the new humanity.
Plus, I imagine asking for the good of the whole opens up so much more potentiality, than many more possibilities than something that we would just think we should focus on. It opens us.
Yes, and the collective imagination of the whole is far greater than just your own.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Jojo here. I always like the term recreate expressed as recreation, because generally recreation is supposed to be fun, something you're enjoying, you're going to do something for recreation. So I always like to imbue that recreating something with that fun, joyful energy. It's supposed to feel good, right?
Yes. But it's not that it's not a struggle sometimes.
That's a given.
Yes.
You know, as everybody probably knows, the Queen just died after 96 years on the planet and 70 years in service to the people. And I thought afterwards, she knew, she waited to install the new Prime Minister of Britain, a woman, and then she just, that was enough. Just, you know, that was her last act, if you will. And also to send her condolences to Canada, which she loved Canada, for what was happening here with some mass killing. I don't know, she's an interesting soul to look at her life, all the dedicated service she put in, and stay steadfast to her. I think her mantra was, don't complain, don't explain. You don't have to explain yourself, but also don't complain.
Yes. Well, we will close the channel saying that these may only be hour and a half sessions, but there is so much content. And each of the I am of each of you comes to gather together in synergy to create this force. And what you're feeling individually together as this small group of people is the synergy that comes from being for the good of the whole. You can feel it tactilely in this group. And you all feel it from within, being in the synergy of the group, talking about these things, listening to us channel every week. Those are just reminders of the truth, of the power of what you have and who you are. Imagine that you're not just tapped into yourself and your source, and you're not just tapped into this particular group, but there are groups all over the world connected by this commitment to the good of the whole. It's like being in a giant club where everybody is dedicated to the same level of compassion everywhere, of giving for the good of the whole, and not being concerned about where that gift goes. Well, I don't want that person to use it because they're not worthy. No, you just openly and freely give for the good of the whole. It's amplified, just like the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you together amplify the synergy that you come together in real time. And even though you're on Zoom and you're not sitting in the same room, your consciousness is directed to look past that limitation and actually not even call it a limitation and look past it, but to understand its significance in the whole operating system, that the lens is designed to give you the separation from each other so that you can see each other and you can create and you can play, have recreation. If we can help you do that, then we are doing our jobs. And we can then just watch and be amazed. Namaste.